the intrusion of the judiciary into the eyes of the judiciary, because the separation of powers, all these institutions certain room to operate under certain flexible environment. You will not have other institutions poking into your eyes. But unfortunately, the whole thing has turned a certain dramatic turn. So controversy in as for Bajebi. Judge, judge. But there are certain basic things as people we can look at and make critical analysis about it. For instance, so where the dealings and the behavior of this current Supreme Court now, it looks as if say abaya the terror arm of power. You to bully to get their way through. Because I heard the circumstances, how predictable the Supreme Court has become, and in the way a manner government business per se go through, they will do everything humanly possible to make sure that it goes through. And on the I'm about the public confidence and trust in the institution. Low. And the public trust anywhere. And Ramo Ibrahim Foundation at the statistics Babonton as to how much Ghana for have trust in the institution. You talk about the autonomy of the court. If the court any autonomy, it means that somebody somewhere is pulling strings. Until we achieve justice, not justice the kind of verdict institutions and Ghanaians are passing. You should be very much concerned. You don't sit on the bench and say, "Me na me to me or my ruling and no achia na ko heba bi asem so no bi wasem." Ono ankasa na ne ho na wasem because an institution order no have no respect. Amanfo mu no. And the last institution betime lose okromo has to do with the judiciary. Come my culture say parliamentarians over the years all had the behavior and as for Ghana for taking it serious. The presidency are yet upon course and that people don't take them serious. The only avenue Ghana for our hope the judiciary, the highest pinnacle of judicial power. And menunya samaya ntwese yebeko ene ya weaponizing the judiciary and trust and anything anyhow because some of the ruling are inconsistent. For instance, Supreme Court is telling us today ruling in Yamabonte, but per the S party application that was granted to Afenyo Mark in the catcher and said, so we Nipana or more MPs, so across the carpet now. We can't deny them your friend is representation in parliament because people voted for them, they need representation. Now maybe say court now okay say Nipa no more voter region omuni MP na yen ratify the next 4 years omonya MP no omo dey say omo ya moa. They don't need representation in parliament. You see the inconsistency yet Chrome has say MP ya to abama no your friend say NDC MP ya Africa Judge question.
Judge question.
Nipa also ya to abama no. He was injuncted for the first time in the history of this country, man. Continue for 2 good years until say aba. So you see the level of inconsistency. So this is the reason why Ghana for are raising.
But these are two different issues.
No.
Judge question the other has to do with citizenship.
No. Debbie, because
we know vacating of seat because we're across the carpet.
No, but there is a common element at that point. Now the ultimate issue has not been determined. What I say, so you don't inject because the principle they say the people need representation. That is the basic principle I can't say. But that has been the soul of this argument. They need representation until the final matter is determined. You can't tell him to go home. That is what Supreme Court is telling us. But in the case it was not determined, but he was sacked to go and sit home.
Okay, you understand? So to Supreme Court. I think that they are making a very important ruling or something. Or more making a statement. So you go Supreme Court to see now. You could say so we will come back and after
it leaves no room for any argument whatsoever, and the majority decision, very big majority, clear majority, 5-2. It's not as if it was a narrow majority, 3-4 or 4-3, that anyone can say, well, there is some room for kind of review anything at all. But the point I'm making is that whenever the court speaks, it's such a clear and emphatic order. Even if it's a very narrow majority, that's the decision of the court, and that decision must be respected. And I'm saying that it will result in a degeneration of our society and a destruction of our democratic order for anybody at all to refuse to comply with orders of the Supreme Court. And I think that's non-negotiable. It's something that we must all respect. I have heard some statements by certain political actors to the effect that the case ought to be withdrawn and that there ought to be negotiation and all that. I'm quite surprised because indeed, firstly, I did not hear such expression of a willingness to negotiate and all, or maybe such instruction to the speaker or direct suggestion to the speaker for negotiation and all, when the speaker started embarking on this act. And I think that for me is very important that the Supreme Court ruled upon this matter, because it is something that had been occurring in this country. The tendency for it to occur really was there. The tendency for it to occur again was there. It was necessary that the Supreme Court came to this clear conclusion and determination of the matter, the meaning of Article 97, Clause 1, paragraphs G and H. And I think we must all respect it.
What do you expect to happen in Parliament? Parliament is currently expect to happen with the Speaker of Parliament?
I think the Speaker of Parliament himself, to start with, indicated in his address to the press last week that the case raised very serious legal issues. Those were serious legal issues and matters bordering on governance in the country. In fact, so I must express my utter shock at this refusal to even file a process. If indeed the Speaker of Parliament himself recognized that the matter raised serious legal issues, as he said to the media last week, where else would you address legal issues but in the court of law? Where else would you have such a definitive pronouncement on the so-called serious legal issues that the Speaker himself recognized in his press statement, done by the Supreme Court of Ghana? So as for the Speaker of Parliament, indeed, is law-abiding. I've known him for a very long time to comply with the decision of the Supreme Court. As I said, it is non-negotiable in every civilized society. When an order of the court is given, no matter how highly placed or lowly placed the court is, even if it's a magistrate's court, you have to obey until it is set aside.
Having seen the conclusion of this matter, would you say as an Attorney General that there's a need for a constitutional review?
What does it relate to this? The American Constitution itself, very thin, as we all know. Yet, the Supreme Court, that Constitution has survived over 200 years. I think that, of course, there are certain provisions in the Constitution that I think that ought to be amended, and I've expressed my views on it to the media. Article 78, Clause 1, which enjoins the President to appoint majority of his ministers from Parliament, ought to be amended. There ought to be that flexibility. I think that certain institutions, for example, the Electoral Commission, NCC, and what have you, the appointment of their heads has to be with the prior approval of Parliament. But I don't think that it calls for a complete overhaul of the Constitution. And indeed, this Constitution is very strong. And it is one Constitution which even goes as far as prescribing consequences of a failure to carry out the Supreme Court order. The Supreme Court order, the consequences are set out clearly in Article 2, Clauses 3, 4, and 5 of the Constitution, that any person to whom an order of the Supreme Court is directed shall duly carry out same. And a failure to carry out such an order, of course, has the consequences of a criminal punishment. In the case of the president, will even result in the president and vice president will result in removal from office.
And finally, do you expect the Speaker of Parliament to rip up Parliament on his own volition after this ruling, given that the court has spoken in such a
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I said, it's an emphatic determination by the court on the matter, and the Speaker of Parliament has no option but to comply. I mean, I think that we must stop giving with one hand and taking with the other. As I said, it will amount to double standards and an exercise in contradiction for the Speaker of Parliament in his address to the media say that the case raises such serious legal issues and matters bordering on governance and all that, and then refuse to take back. So this country refuse to take part in the proceedings. I think in this country we must recognize some people for who they are and what they do. This hypocrisy and double standards must cease. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter on all matters in the country, including an interpretation of the Constitution. Indeed, it's the only court solely seeks registration to pronounce on the meaning of relevant provisions of the Constitution. And the Constitution means what the Supreme Court says it means, and nothing more. It is the same in America, and as I said, America, United Kingdom, and all advanced democracies, that is the order that they respect. There's no way a Supreme Court would give a decision in America or United Kingdom, and then the Prime Minister, apart from expressing his disagreement with the decision of the President of America, of course he has a freedom of expression to express his disagreement with the decision, but he has no option but to comply, and they usually comply, and that is it.
Attorney General, many have said that this decision or this judgment was to be expected, and that the judiciary seemed to be in bed with the executive. Can you address that?
I mean that. So first of all, some principles of law have been established well over decades. There is no principle of law argued in this matter. which has not been established in this country. And indeed, if that's the case, then any case mounted which has in play those principles will be determined the same way. So I think that if there's indeed a rule of law, an element of it is predictability. It's not a case where a court of law will rule this way on account of the same principle of law, but rule another way on account of the same principle. So indeed, there must be some element of predictability. And I'm saying that indeed these principles that we contended with in this matter are old principles. There's nothing new. And for those who are saying the court is acting a certain way and all that, the same people were those who were rejoicing when the Court of Appeal gave a decision acquitting their leader. Their leader was acquitted by the Court of Appeal. They were happy with it. And to date, he's able to make all those arguments in Parliament because he has been acquitted. And I did not raise any issue with that back to appeal. I did not say I'm not going to respect the decision of the court. I respect the decision of the court. And until the decision is set aside by a higher court, which is the Supreme Court, that decision will remain binding on all. So we must stop this hypocrisy and exercises in contradiction. As I said, that when our reaction or attitude to court rulings depends on how palatable we deem it. We cannot react to decisions based on how palatable we deem it, and that's exactly what is happening. Thank you very much.
All right, so the Supreme Court of the land, by 5-2 decision, release a speaker declaration say oyi ekofo 9 or declare mo sit ni vacant no unconstitutional. And after your markings kasa die numra.
Your position today.
You accept that he's not.
No, I just want us to have clarity for the purposes of education. What is your position now? I want to know. What has the court said? That what? No, yes, we are educating ourselves. You know, I want that we are educating us. We are not fighting. We are educating ourselves. So I want to know from you.
He doesn't want to respond.
No.
Go on with
we
your.
Need to get it. So what is it? I want to know. That what? That is so. I mean, I just wanted clarity on this matter. We can only thank God, and also it's a moment for all of us to rally around the choice we made in 1992, democracy. Democracy requires decency, and that is the path the MPP majority caucus took to ensure that we do right to the law. Nothing more except to say that we expect our colleagues on the other side, including Mr. Speaker, to respect the outcome of this case so that we move on as a nation. All we have is the peace of the country. All we have is our democracy. And in West Africa and in Africa as a whole, Ghana shines in the eyes of the people in terms of democracy. So this is another feat we have achieved, and we must celebrate it. It's not a matter of MPP against NDC. It's a matter of constitutional, interpretation, and the court has given its verdict. We should all respect it and move on. Thank you very much. I think on the
you expect the speaker to report Parliament
let the lawyers deal with the issues of law. I think that all we want is peace in the country, and we chose peace, and today we've achieved peace. That is all we say.
The Speaker has no choice. He has to abide by the ruling of the Supreme Court. He has no choice. He has no choice. Absolutely no choice.
What's the way forward?
The way forward is for him. He would not know what to do.
The
Supreme Court is spoken.
The interesting thing about this matter is that as far back as 1968, after the first Republican Constitution, we decided as a nation, which can be seen by the proposals of the Constituent Assembly, that two things will happen. The first thing that we decided was that we will have the judiciary interpret the Constitution. In fact, they said two things. They wanted the judiciary to be the ultimate arbiter of what the Constitution says, and they also wanted the judiciary to be able to give advisory opinions. The people of Ghana rejected the second suggestion, and said that the judiciary should not give advisory opinions, but the judiciary is the body that should interpret the constitution. The second thing that is important in that entire the 1968 proposals was that they decided that Parliament would not be supreme. The supremacy of Parliament was not accepted. What they decided was that Parliament will be under the Constitution, and so all our constitutions since then have followed this position. In fact, the 1992 Constitution in Article 1 says that sovereignty lies in the people. That sovereignty was expressed when the people, through a referendum, voted to bring this constitution into force. And the constitution tells us that the supreme law of Ghana is the constitution. Everybody else is under the constitution. Nobody is above anybody. Everybody has his role. And so the fact that the Supreme Court interprets the constitution does not mean that they are above anybody. In fact, there are judges sitting on the bench. One of them is my classmate. My juniors are on the bench. But once they go and sit there, even if it's my own child sitting there, I cannot but bow and give the person respect, not for the person, but for the office and for the law. And we expect every other Ghanaian to also respect the law. We don't all agree on what is said and what is done. There are several times that I've disagreed with what is said and what is done. But because of the respect for the rule of law, because of the respect for the constitution, we just keep quiet and follow the law, hoping that if we don't agree, another opportunity will come that we'll be able to express ourselves. So what has happened today, we have not seen the reasons. We are happy because we came to court because we believed that the right thing was that the people had not by their action vacated their seats. So what has happened to them, we are happy about it. Tomorrow, the reasons will come out. And when the reasons come out, as lawyers, then we can look at the reasons and what the court has said, and then we can discuss it. In fact, the fact that the court has ruled in your favor does not mean that you agree with the reasons. You may decide that even the reasons some of the judges gave, you do not agree with it. Two of the judges talked about jurisdiction. We don't know what they said, so tomorrow we will know. And when we know, we will prepare to answer more questions in detail. But as was said by the leader, as far as I'm concerned, today democracy has won, constitutionalism has won.
And Bagbin has lost.
Nobody has lost. Democracy has won, constitutionalism has won, and nobody has lost. Every one of us is holding every position that we hold in trust for the people of Ghana. We don't hold it in our own capacity. When you are an MP, when you are a minister, when you are a president, when you are a speaker, when you are a chief justice, you hold it in trust for the people of Ghana, and you are under the law. Your time will come and you leave the position, and that is what we must all write. So the 4 MPs have been reinstated. They must come to Parliament, and as far as I'm concerned, if the status quo ante is brought back, then this whole dispute that people call him caucus leader, whatever, it should stop from today. We have a majority, which is MPP, and the majority leader is Honorable Alexander Afeyo Maki. It's as simple as that. Leader. There's no, how can I, madam? We've come from court. You want me to give you a constitutional lecture?
Okay, we'll take our group photograph.
So what we'll do is that we'll talk about that, please.
So you heard the lead counsel for Majority Leader Afeyo Maki speaking on the judgments.
All right, so just in near Airbus from the Supreme Court, HSA Abba Sumana Bagbin, our Speaker of Parliament, now could declare 4 seats vacant. Now, Supreme Court are overturning that particular ruling. Now, with these 4 seats, Miesa the NPP and 1 the NDC. The second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Andrew Esiama, call Parliament as an independent Member of Parliament. And now, Yenya Kweku Asante, Suhu Member of Parliament, and of course, Cynthia Morrison. Omuina so more call as independent content crow. And now, Peter Kwachiaka also call as an independent parliamentary candidate. Speaker of Parliament, Abasumana Bagbin, Ejina Nitumiso Article 97(1), and then Nasifo anybody na Ediclo Musit no vacant. Sisia Supreme Court, Asama Eban say Supreme Court are overturning that particular declaration on making their seats not vacant. And so for that matter, Afeyo Maki and the NPP continues to be the majority in Parliament. This is what is happening. Menoka say there's jubilation all over Parliament, and of course, we share the way almost jubilate to Honoma. They are answering questions of money Ghana for so it tells you that this is what is happening. Supreme Court by 5-2 ruling, panel na no judges mote assembly so mudi no moye mako and so no emu 5 say there be asema abasuma na Bagbin eka ye declare the seat vacant no enye ne kwanso no mienu so e de omo de e de aba. But as it stands now 5-2 the majority, and that for that matter the issue has been overturned. The declaration by Abasumana Bagbin, the Speaker of Parliament, has been overturned. Now, after your marking and the MPP, the majority, and those seats are declared vacant, they can still go back to their seats and sit there as members of Parliament representing their various constituencies. Innocent.
I think that was expected.
That was expected?
Oh, really?
How?
That was expected because in recent times the Supreme Court has become so predictable.
Wow.
Betting we the only thing they are changing is you see now I'm from unanimous FC.
Yeah. And
now you see they just try to balance it just to make it look like. But you see, ordinary ruling from the highest pinnacle of judicial power bar, and people respect it.
Yeah.
But there is one thing that is missing. That respect is not there. Because I'm telling you, sitting at the bench and dispensing justice is just a smaller part of it. Getting people to believe and trust in the justice delivery system, that is the whole package. You understand? So working one part and not working one part. That is why I'm very much concerned about the many concerns being raised by Ghanaians. Mo Ibrahim.
Yeah.
See, Afro barometer. I search about this whole judiciary because it is not about the final delivery. It is about the processes and the circumstances. Recently, we went to court. Don't forget, say, Speaker of Parliament, Uncle defending so he didn't go there with a representation. So I have found marking so that is by the way. Chief Justice and panel team there was one person failed parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party, the MPP. It was raised at the Supreme Court. This is the highest judicial power. That's obia our partisan ties in the past. Our MP, our fairly, our whole central. Not such a critical case. Common sense will tell you it will not augur well with you and the people. Because do you know why? Chief Justice by and also, this is a constitutional matter. Constitutional matter brought forth by political actors. And young Coco didn't send no call to a nipa from political party and the call. So the political interest, so you can discount it on the basis a constitutional matter and obi our known partisan ties among for him say nipa we or MPP ni or call parliamentary way of and a President Akufo-Addo abeg the judge and such a sensitive matter so I am not saying what the Supreme Court the ababonten correct and because I'm no to me we have no right, we have no power, but you be to match what I say era we are no yam father me judge na me we hunu nipa what I say na make sure there be other maker Pontius Pilate no parents on almost that dear channel, Granam for come margin channel. Then to say your friends error way. You will sit there, Obama judgment, we will sit here, we will express because that is democracy. That dear chair. Omokrano also Okoku Yesu, you say, or your friends are Barnabas, Onja Barnabas, no Yesu. And your public no more shout to him. So you don't sit there and think dispensing justice and it ends there, everybody should shut up. No, I'm not for because there are certain basic elements border on common sense, reasoning, and logic. We had the Supreme Court ruling in recent times. Every and then a man for a lose trust and confidence. And to what as a judge, as a chief justice, you should know that you are just passing because paying. All that you do is to redeem the image of the judiciary because we are going to an election. There will be a number of cases coming up. And if you have people not trusting the judiciary, you should be worried because at the end of the day, as some court and at the end of the day, what happens? We are moving into an era of chaos. What I say, and it's the reason why it is incumbent on the judiciary and the chief justice today. I am sending her a text message say, on repair, their friends said the image of the judiciary, because the image of the Ghana's judiciary is in the tatters, is in the gutters. Onima me catch no, and she has to do everything to repair. And yes, as a Ghana for lose trust, confidence, our judiciary, we are done. Because Babi Kwako do no ruling about right, whether right or wrong, I don't care. But I'm very much concerned about public trust in the institution, because democracy revolve around the last time I catch you say. So we are democracy to her. If you sit somewhere and you think the soldier for the bomb by police, and your police, it is we the people. The trust and the confidence we repose in state institutions, democratic institutions, and among democracy in happen. Just imagine say everybody in Accra, that's around no pass and you see by demonstration. Do you think the president can sit here? We saw what happened in Sri Lanka when the citizens rose to the Jubilee House. The president ran away. You understand? So power, the sovereignty of Ghana, residing on we the people. It doesn't matter who you are. Chief Justice or Supreme Court, you are just a smaller part of it, playing a role. Very soon you fade. You understand? Another person will come, but we need to protect this country. So don't sit there and allow yourself to be used as a stooge in the hands of power. Say obi direct, then you go. Use your conscience. I don't care whether people belong to NDC or MPP. But you see, never lose your conviction. Never lose your offense or your conscience. But we've gotten to a point that we've lost everything. No value, no principle, no morality. Then I say for them. And then Supreme Court will mention the conversation as Makachiro said, whatever be the outcome, inconsequential to resolving this matter, because the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of MPP. Do you think the NDC MPs will go and sit there for parliament business to happen?
It's something else.
No, that is up to them. They can also decide to boycott. Into a boycott, the speaker cannot make decision our house, so because also you don't have the number. So I know that what happens is the reason why America said in modern governance and as for there are methods they resolve some of these issues, mediation, reconciliation, whole lot of stuff. Because we are all learned individuals, are very rational. We settle, we argue among ourselves. How do we resolve this particular issue? At the end of the day, consistently we are forcing them to lose trust in our institutions, and I think that is very dangerous. Obama Bahano Kacha and say Africa should build strong institution. He was not talking about Kwaku Abenao and I said Obi Betena institution in Maya Barrio. He was talking about allowing rule of law principle in the way Ebaya Juma Sabaya Nipabenya trust a woman. Because remember that's why we need trust to police. I do think Minya case a report to police. We need to have trust in all these institutions, because that is what makes democracy today. And look at the kind of states a woman the media, the police, everything. Democracy, the only fortunate thing I hear is Ghana for are very discerning enough. Say we don't want to break our fourth republic because circumstances are revolving around Africa. How much some countries are breaking their democracy. The Ghana term, but because we are civilized, we are very tolerant people. We hope that election is in the offing. Let us hope that things will get better. So Supreme Court, there's somebody ruling about it, but we are telling them that our integrity out there, it's in the gutters. And it is incumbent upon them to do everything to repair. They should go and look at the Mo Ibrahim report. They should go and look at the first Afro Barometer report. You should be very much concerned. What the program was now? Man for any rating be and a man for a board downward. Shouldn't you be concerned about it? When you know, say whatever you do, revolve around public trust and confidence. You can sit there and say you don't care, but institution now will to get them, and I think that is very sad.
All right, Masaba now.
I agree with everything Ivan says. Everything he says is true. We, the people, have no trust in any institution in this country.
You don't even trust the Supreme Court?
We don't trust anything. You think you are telling us something, but we on the street, and me, I work in the ghettos, we down there, we have no respect for anything you say or do, because we know everything is biased. We did not expect any different outcome than what we got. We didn't expect anything else.
Oh, really?
We did not. Nobody did. Except for maybe the MPP people. But me and the people that I know, that I talk to, Fix the Country, Democracy, we all expected this to happen.
Interesting. I see.
Did it even ever look like it was going to be different? It didn't at any point. And what
but it is a clear test case for us, and I'm also imagining what is going to happen to the previous ruling by the 7th Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, after declaring the same former member of Parliament seats vacant when he stood in as the independent parliamentary candidate when he defected from the NPP. And I'm just imagining, he declared his seat vacant, and now the same parliament declaring another seat vacant has been overturned by the Supreme Court. Very interesting.
You see, that is why how can we respect them? I mean, contradicting yourself constantly.
Yes.
And when young people like this talk, the way they talk, you can see that these boys are not stupid. These boys are educated. Look at the things he's quoting. Look at this document. Look at that document. These boys are reading. These boys are fighting for democracy. Real democracy. Not what these people are telling us, this is democracy.